Okay, let me get this straight. Trump's betting you get so exhausted by the corruption that you just stop noticing it. Senator Chris Murphy laid 500 days of it on one timeline. Watch, then subscribe.
Colleagues, over the last year and a half, our president, Donald Trump, has turned the White House into a 24/7 corruption operation. This is a national crisis, and we should start acting like it. The president's goal is to engage in so much corruption, so much self-enrichment, to hand out so many favors to his friends, his family, and his political allies that it just becomes the pitter-patter of rain. It's normal, it's constant, it's never-ending. Trump's bet is that if there's a new story of corruption, of self-dealing, every few days, that the press will stop covering it, or the public will just stop paying attention. To an extent, he is tragically succeeding. But he's also betting that the public will just come to the conclusion that this is normal because all of our politics are this corrupt, that every senator, that every previous president is this corrupt. That is not true. While I disagree with my Senate Republican colleagues' decision to largely remain silent in the face of this misconduct, it is true that not a single senator on either side of the aisle engages in the behavior that our president does. Senators, Republicans and Democrats, do not trade our votes for cash or for political contributions. We don't run side hustles like crypto companies. Senators don't give contracts to their kids just because we can. And no president in the history of this country has done what Donald Trump has done. No president has done 5% of the self-dealing that Donald Trump has done in the last year and a half. This moment is exceptional. It is a one-of-one moment. And if it becomes normal, if people stop being outraged at what he is doing to enrich himself, then I fear there is no going back. The White House will just become a place to get rich. So I think it's time to pull back and see the full picture. To not view this as just one isolated scandal after another, every single one popping up each week or every few days, but to understand the full scope of this illegality. Last year, I came to the floor to document the first 100 days of Donald Trump's mind-blowing corruption. Since then, especially in 2026, the pace of his misconduct has quickened dramatically. And so I'm here on the floor today, and I'm going to spend more than a few minutes doing this, laying out what has happened since I gave that last speech. This is the story of 500 days of corruption. And I'm going to start on April 7th, 2025. This is when the current acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, issues a memo ordering the termination of several Biden-era DOJ investigations into crypto companies. Now, here's the problem. The then Deputy Attorney General is a major investor in crypto companies, and he works for a president who is a major player in the crypto industry. But DOJ just drops these investigations, signals that the Department of Justice is no longer going to hold crypto companies accountable. But Blanche owns major investments in crypto stocks. The president is one of the biggest players in the industry. Blanche doesn't actually stop there. He eliminates the entire enforcement team at DOJ dedicated to rooting out crypto-related fraud and money laundering schemes. This is a crypto investor who works for a president who owns crypto companies, shutting down the unit at DOJ that holds this industry accountable. Let's move to 3 weeks later, on April 30th. Later in the month, a curious announcement from the Department of Agriculture. They are reversing a rule that would require poultry companies to limit salmonella bacteria levels in their products. This is essentially a rule to make it less likely that people will get salmonella poisoning.
Start with April 7th, 2025. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche orders the DOJ to terminate the Biden-era investigations into the crypto industry. Here's the problem. Blanche personally owns major crypto investments, and he works for a president who runs his own crypto company. Then it gets worse. By September, we learn Trump pocketed roughly $57 million selling tokens to entities tied to North Korea, Iran, and Russia. So the man dismantling crypto oversight is the same man cashing foreign checks through crypto. That's not a conflict of interest. That's the business model. And watch what Murphy does here, because this is the entire technique. He doesn't scream. He builds a timeline. He puts the donation next to the favor, the date next to the payout, and then he lets you connect them yourself. Because here's the trick Trump is counting on. When you see one scandal, you shrug and scroll. When you see 30 of them lined up in order, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. That's the one thing he needs you to never do. He wants every story to feel random, isolated, forgettable. Murphy just proved they were never random. They all run the same play. Now, take April 30th. The Department of Agriculture reverses a rule that would have forced poultry companies to limit salmonella in their products. A rule that literally keeps you from getting sick. And who was one of the biggest donors to Trump's inauguration? Pilgrim's Pride, a poultry company. $5 million. Bigger than Amazon, bigger than Meta, bigger than Exxon. They wrote the check. They asked for one thing, the salmonella rule gone, and they got it. So let me make this clear. Your food safety got traded for a donation. That's not deregulation. That's pay to play. And you're the one left eating the risk. And here's what makes Murphy's point land so hard. He's not asking you to trust him. He's reading you the receipt. The donation is public. The rule reversal is public. The request is public. All he did was put them in order. They told you this was about cutting red tape for farmers. The record says it was about cashing a $5 million check. Put the dates side by side, and it's crystal clear. This isn't policy. It's a transaction. And the product being sold across that table was your family's health, priced at whatever the donor was willing to pay. Then in May, the pardon racket opens. Trump pardons Paul Walzak. This guy stole millions from the nurses and aides at his own nursing home, then spent it on a $2 million yacht. He got convicted. He went to prison. Then his mother paid $1 million for a face-to-face meeting with Trump. And 3 weeks after that paid audience, her son walked free. And the pardon wiped out the $4.4 million he owed the workers he robbed. Think about that. The victims were healthcare workers. The pardon didn't just free the thief, it erased what he owed them. Justice went to whoever could afford the toll. And this is the part Murphy keeps hammering, because it's the tell. When the facts are on your side, you answer directly. You point to the law. You point to the date. You point to the number. What this White House does instead is flood the zone and hope you're too tired to keep track. That's the entire bet. Murphy said it himself. Trump wants the corruption so constant that the outrage turns into exhaustion and the exhaustion turns into acceptance. Read that twice. That's not an accident. That's the strategy. And the only way it ever fails is if somebody refuses to look away and keeps the list. Now jump to June. Stephen Miller isn't just the architect of the immigration crackdown. He's invested in it. He owns up to $250,000 in Palantir stock. And just a month before that holding went public, ICE, which Miller helps oversee, handed Palantir a $30 million contract to run real-time surveillance. No competitive bid. Zero. So the man designing the policy owns stock in the company cashing in on the policy. And your tax dollars are the fuel. They'll call that a coincidence. It isn't. When the same people write the rules and hold the stock, that's not a conflict of interest. That is the interest. So here's the line you can use. Next time someone says, "This is just politics as usual," ask them one thing. Name the previous president who pardoned donors for cash, funneled no-bid contracts to his own kids, and sold rule changes over lunch. The answer is none. Murphy's right. This isn't a string of unrelated scandals you forget by Friday. It's a system. And it only works if you stop paying attention. So don't. If this gave you the receipts, hit like, drop a comment with the one that shocked you most, and subscribe so the next receipt lands in your feed. They're betting on your exhaustion. Staying awake is the whole fight. I'll see you in the next one.